through homes, ripping off rooftops, sending garage doors flying off their hinges, displacing hundreds of residents. Nearly 24 homes destroyed, more than $3.6 million in damages, leaving badly shaken townsfolk to clean up the mess. Luckily, no deaths, no serious injuries sustained. You're watching Global National. Here's what else is happening tonight. Choked in the big smoke. More smog alerts this year than ever before, and it's not even summer. For many, it's unbearable.
It feels like someone's got their arms around your chest.
Unbreathable.
I just got to the point now I won't go out.
Unlivable.
It really is a hardship for me.
What can be done about it? Tonight, two models. One, a city that's given up on getting people out of their cars, so is cleaning them up instead. And another focused on public transportation, but meeting surprising resistance. Could this high school kid have all the answers? No plan, no peace.
We have made misstep after misstep, poor planning, not having enough troops in there.
New documents show how Washington came up way short on ideas to win the war after the war. And hometown hero Jacques Villeneuve is flooring F1 fans in Montreal.
They like his panache, as we say in French, his style, his vigor.
But what about his track record?
Global National with Tara Nelson. Sitting in tonight, Suzette Meyers.
A thick blanket of smog obscures the Toronto skyline today, forcing residents to breathe in heavily polluted air for days on end now. The amount of smog reaching record-setting amounts. Factor in the extreme heat, and living is more than just uncomfortable. It's dangerous. Officials urging people to stay indoors. Hello and thanks for joining us. The severity of the weather situation in southern Ontario highlighted by the fact Toronto is now on the verge of setting an all-time smog record. The city started recording smog data in 1993. Since then, the smoggiest year was 2001, with 20 days garnering a smog advisory. Today's smog alert is already the 19th this year, and it's only June. Forecasts are calling for no real improvement in air quality, so the record will likely fall in the next couple of days. The smog, however, isn't limited to Toronto. As Lauren McNabb reports, it's one of many areas being socked in.
Drive 30 minutes north of Toronto and you'll hit green pastures. Country living with all the pleasures of Ontario's great outdoors, including smog.
It gets overcast during the daytime hours, and the sky's looking a little more brown than it used to.
Forget the idea smog is a city problem. These days, air quality is bad everywhere for everyone. Bad in cottage country, even bad in Sault Ste. Marie, 700 kilometers away.
You will feel constrained in your lungs, and you can feel your performance is not as normal.
Now, who's to blame for these hazy skies? Well, some of the finger pointing is directed just south of here, to coal-burning plants in Ohio. But even if Ontario was somehow able to magically stop pollution at the border, it would still be responsible for generating 50% of the problem. And everything that blows into the air here in southern Ontario comes down in Ottawa and Montreal. That region has the second worst smog problem in the country, but 80% of it comes from Ontario and the United States. And the winds of pollution don't stop there.
The Maritimes is sort of the, the tailpipe of North America. A lot of the air coming from North America will go out via Atlantic Canada. They don't have a lot of local sources of pollution, but they certainly import a lot of bad air.
To help clear the skies, Ontario has launched countless programs, trying to convince corporations and the public to change. And the province says emissions of certain chemicals have dropped by as much as 16%. Yet this year, more smog alerts than ever before. One reason, this. Heat and humidity trap the pollution in. With the hot forecast, central Canada can expect more alerts and for longer periods.
Where you're breathing the same air on Friday as you did on Monday. That is not good for your health.
And that includes those living in the not-so-fresh country air. In Toronto, this is Global's Lauren McNabb reporting.
The word smog is pretty synonymous with Los Angeles, but believe it or not, the LA metro area now has the most improved air quality in the United States, something the city of more than 7 million vehicles has worked hard on since facing a do-or-die situation in the 1980s. But in a region where commuting is a pastime, the solution wasn't taking people out of their cars, it was making those cars and the fuel that powers them much cleaner. As the most improved U.S. city in terms of air quality, LA has reduced major smog by 85% from 1980 to 1999. From 1980 to 1982, the city experienced an average of 154 days of bad smog per year. From 1997 to 99, that number was reduced to a surprising 23 days. They did all that by implementing a strict smog check program requiring inspection once every 2 years, a Clean Air Act requiring specific improvements each year, state-of-the-art gasoline and diesel fuel with cleaner additives and higher prices at the pump. A percentage of all new vehicles must be zero emission. All other vehicles must be altered or manufactured for lower emissions. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger taking the cleanup to the next level, spending $54 million on a plan to cut in half California's smog by 2010. That plan to make hydrogen the state's main source of fuel. Here in Canada, the Kyoto Accord was supposed to result in huge reductions in pollution levels, but relatively little has been accomplished so far. The federal government has, however, scored at least one major coup, getting car makers to reduce emissions by close to 25% over the next 5 years. Another way to cut back and getting people out of their cars altogether and into transit. It's something Vancouver is trying to do, but as Jazz Johal reports, going green is easier said than done.
It may be a city known for its proximity to nature, but when you view Vancouver from the city's North Shore, you see sprawl and smog. 2.2 million people and growing, and most still in love with their cars. It wasn't supposed to be like this, even though Vancouver said no to freeways 3 decades ago. It now has more vehicles on the road per capita during rush hour than the city of Los Angeles. This was supposed to be the place where transit would flourish. It was a concept based on an elevated transit system and higher density housing.
What you have is communities of people who go, oh, gee, we don't want any more density. We just like our single-family homes. We don't want to have, you know, suites. We don't want to have multifamily units. So there's a real challenge even with the people that live in the communities that we represent as well.
Changing attitudes hasn't been the only problem. The transit system has invested heavily into expensive, elevated sky trains, leaving a huge debt. It's billions, critics say, that should have been spent on buses.
Vancouver, in terms of the way the city is organized, is more like Los Angeles. We're very spread out, and rail doesn't work for places like Vancouver. We need a bus to get where we want to go in this city.
Is transit doomed out in the burbs?
I think it is. There's no way you could possibly afford to be putting out, you know, buses to like all of those communities. So what you try to aim for is those solid urban cores where you build around like a sky train.
Why don't you go get you ran on a platform.
It's a decade-old plan that still leads to vicious debates at transit meetings.
Loser is spelled Bus Rider Union.
Lotusland continues to attempt balancing its green dreams and modern car culture. It's an experiment cities across North America are watching closely. In a still sprawling Vancouver, this is Global's Jazz Johal reporting.
So what happens when politicians can't agree and get the job done? Sometimes an outsider can step in and make all the difference. And that's exactly what's happening in Winnipeg, where a teenager is on a quest for better transit. Mike Edgell explains.
Like many teens, this 17-year-old has strong feelings about public transit.
It's slow, it's inefficient, and it's just uncomfortable.
He wants a better system, like the one politicians have promised and promised.
I think the city has dithered on this issue far too long.
Winnipeg intends to apply.
The political wrangling over a new rapid transit system in Winnipeg has lingered on for years, and Lee Haber is tired of waiting. So, in his free time over the last 2 years, Haber and a couple of classmates assembled their own vision for public transit in the city.
So that it can thrive as a city, and also important for young people like me because we're the ones who are going to be using this system, and we will also be inheriting this system.
They even held a press conference to make the adults listen to their comprehensive plan.
The buses would be guided by the concrete track, much like a train is by its own rails.
He took technologies from around the world and tailored them to Winnipeg. At its core, buses on rails that are used in parts of Europe. It allows buses to escape traffic jams. Haber also developed a detailed system of routes, far beyond what the city has on the table. Politicians are taking notice.
And I think they've come up with some very interesting routes as well. They are absolutely right. Politicians can't get this job done, the politicians that have been elected so far. Nicely done. Congratulations. Very good presentation and great content. Yep. So, yeah, way to go. All right, well, that's great. I'll take off, but yeah, call anytime.
Do you feel these politicians are actually listening?
I think they're giving us good face time. I'm not sure if they're listening.
The task force working on the city's plan says some of the teens' ideas might stick, but that bus rail might not work in Manitoba's harsh winter climate. This city's final report was due this month. But what do you know? It's been delayed for another 3, leaving people like Lee Haber waiting in frustration. In Winnipeg, this is Global's Mike Edgell reporting.
A bomb derailed a train en route to Moscow from war-torn Chechnya today. More than 36 commuters injured in the attack, which Muslim Chechen terrorists are suspected of carrying out. Russian officials say the explosion was caused by 3 kilos of TNT tied to the tracks, blowing up on impact with the locomotive. One boy is dead and his 2 brothers are in hospital tonight after a swimming accident near Guelph, Ontario, east of Toronto. The boys, all under the age of 10, were taking a break from the intense heat at a local beach. 2 of the boys were airlifted to a hospital in Hamilton, the 3rd taken to a local hospital. There were no lifeguards posted at the beach. Parishioners once again filing into Nova Scotia's St. John's Anglican Church, the parish reopening its doors today after a $7 million reconstruction job. It burned to the ground 4 years ago. The 250-year-old structure is a National Historic Site and has been popular with Hollywood filmmakers. Secret British documents say the Bush administration gave hardly any thought to what would happen after the Iraq War. Should they have better anticipated the bloody aftermath, and what impact is that having on American recruits? Then, Lebanon's long election. Syria's gone, but are people ready to choose a new direction? And capital punishment in Gaza. Will the government's attempts to send a hard message to terrorists spark a backlash?
We're in Florence for President's Choice with our tour guide, Roberto. Nice town.
Grazie.
So, you guys are crazy about the panna cotta. You love the panna cotta.
Si.
Now, we think maybe our Canadian panna cotta is a little bit better. What do you think? Well, go ahead and try it. Blueberries. That's Ontario cling peaches. What do you think? All right, he likes it. What do you guys think of your panna cotta?
New President's Choice Blueberry Peach Panna Cotta, $5.99. The PC Summer Insiders Report.
Life. It can take a sudden turn. It can hang in the balance. It can change in a heartbeat. We want to help you live your life. For you, with you. A message from Canada's healthcare providers.
Now at the Brick, get any size mattress set, twin, full, or queen for one low price. Plus, incredible free gifts. When you buy the Simmons Beauty Sleep Set, twin, full, or queen, for just $4.99, you get this DVD player free. Nobody beats the Brick.
The Klondike Day Super Pack is back, and it's packed with more chances to win. A fully furnished freehold, $100,000 cash, cars, trucks, groceries for life, and more. Win it all with Super Pack. Tickets from just $25. Buy your tickets now at superpack.ca.
Okay, gang, let's get this party started.
16 seasons in and still sporting all the right moves. The Simpsons. Global's got it tonight at 9.
Following yesterday's precision airstrikes by U.S. forces in western Iraq, killing at least 40 suspected insurgents, the U.S. military continues to expand its 2-week-old offensive aimed at slowing Iraq's deadly insurgency. As more roadblocks and checkpoints continue to go up around Baghdad, the Americans confirm they've rounded up at least 1,300 suspected militants during Operation Lightning. Insurgent attacks have killed more than 900 Iraqi citizens since the formation of Baghdad's new government in late April. The death toll of Iraqi citizens is directly linked to the out-of-control insurgency still growing in the months and now years since the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime. Within just the last few days, the bodies of almost 50 murdered Iraqis have turned up across the country. And with 4 more U.S. troops killed today in Iraq, it pushes the American death toll past 1,700. Many critics argue a lack of post-war planning by the U.S. military has helped the insurgency flourish, and they have new ammunition now in the form of a secret British memo. Kimberly Halkett has been tracking this from Washington, and she joins us with more. Kimberly.
It's being called the Downing Street Memo. It is a British brief put together by top officials for Prime Minister Tony Blair, showing he knew in advance the U.S. did not have a plan in place for post-war Iraq. The briefing, written by British officials after meetings with their Washington counterparts, says little thought has been given to, among other things, the aftermath and how to shape it. The memo goes on to warn that lack of foresight could lead to a protracted and costly nation-building exercise.
We went in with an inadequate number of troops, and we totally underestimated what we were going to face.
Details of the memo published in Washington today assert President Bush made up his mind about invading Iraq without giving any thought to post-invasion stability, still plaguing Iraq today, and threatening to keep coalition troops in place for possibly 2 more years.
We didn't have a good reason for going in. If you don't have a good reason for going into something, then you don't have any reasons for getting out of it.
In a meeting with Tony Blair earlier this week, President Bush denied the U.S. failed to plan for post-war Iraq.
There's nothing farther from the truth.
But the president's critics and the American public continue to be skeptical. New poll numbers show presidential support on Iraq remains low, just 41%.
I think the military is in a lot of trouble. And if we don't get this turned around, we're going to be faced with a huge challenge.
An American mood having a big effect on U.S. military recruitment. The Pentagon reports in May the Army fell 3,000 soldiers short of its goal of 8,000 new recruits.
There are many young people who have come to question whether we're going to carry out the mission in a way that gives them great honor.
Now, the Pentagon's recruiting target is 80,000. Right now, it is not even at the halfway point. Still, the military is optimistic it will make its mark by offering first-time bonuses for enlistees as well as better health care benefits. But experts say that the military faces some tough competition with an improving civilian job market and never-ending trouble in Iraq. Suzette.
All right, thanks, Kimberly. Kimberly Halkett in Washington. The Iranian government is investigating tonight the country's deadliest bombing attacks in more than a decade. A string of blasts early today is raising concerns it may be tied to Friday's national elections. Iranian state television broadcasting the aftermath of the first of 4 bombs that went off in the capital of an oil-rich province bordering Iraq. But within 2 hours, 3 more blasts went off, all targeting government offices. All told, at least 8 people were killed. More than 30 others were injured. Voters around Beirut and in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley near Syria's border are streaming to the polls today for the 3rd of 4 rounds of the first parliamentary elections without Syrian influence in more than 30 years. The first 2 rounds have left almost an equal number of seats between anti-Syrian candidates and supporters of the pro-Syrian militant group Hezbollah. Results are not expected before Tuesday. Both Washington and the UN this week accused Syria of still operating intelligence agents inside Lebanon. Just south from Lebanon, the Palestinian Authority confirms it has carried out 4 executions today, the first since 2002. The 4 men who confessed to murdering people in Gaza were put to death as part of the government's plan to rein in lawlessness across Palestinian territory. It follows yesterday's controversial statements by the Palestinian foreign minister that militants will not be disarmed as long as Israel occupies territory Palestinians want for a state. Israel says the comments are endangering the peace process, but so far, neither side has met their obligations for stage 1 of the roadmap plan. Israel has not withdrawn from settlements, and Palestinians have not stopped militants attacking Israel. And is this guy hot in Quebec? But why, when Jacques Villeneuve hasn't won a Formula One race in years? We visit Montreal's Grand Prix today to find out. Just ahead.
Closed captioning brought to you in part by Alberta Beverage Container Recycling Corporation. Remember to return your sport and water bottles and keep them out of the landfill. Every one matters.
This is it, boys. The Wild. Hoover Dam. We're back at the zoo. Abort! Dive!
Stow and go to Madagascar during the Dodge Caravan National Sales Event. Get a Dodge Grand Caravan with stow and go seating, or for $22,188, get a Dodge Caravan.
I can help you with that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Roddick, that is one seat on the flight there and...
2 on the return flight. Thank you.
My life is about confidence. My card is American Express.
If your last encounter with fruit was on a Hawaiian shirt, you'll want to try this. The fresh fruit bowl and cup at Wendy's. Honeydew, cantaloupe, pineapple, and grapes with a strawberry yogurt dip. Do Wendy's. Do what tastes right.
Honey, I got that dessert you like, and look what else I got. Honey, kids, relax. It's new Cool Citrus Listerine. It's less intense.
Introducing less intense Cool Citrus Listerine. You can handle it. Germs can't.
The secret to radiant, longer-lasting color? New Vive Color Care Mask by L'Oreal. A nutrient-rich formula that deeply penetrates to nourish and protect the color of your hair, so you keep up to 45% more of the color you love. New Vive Color Care Mask by L'Oreal Paris.
So, I owe you $25.50.
Yep, but it's okay. You don't have to pay anything until 2007.
This could only happen at the Brick. You don't pay until 2007. It's the Brick's greatest no-interest, no-payment offer ever.
Fun, action, and even a little romance. Las Vegas, Monday at 10. Global's got it.
20 years and 56 fights later, the career of boxing's most controversial figure is apparently over. Mike Tyson, the former heavyweight champ of the world, losing badly to boxer Kevin McBride in Washington, D.C. last night. Just 6 rounds on, and Tyson couldn't keep going. It was all over. The man who once bit his opponent's ear and fought in and out of the ring says he's finished fighting for good.
I wasn't interested. I just don't have it in me no more. I could beat everything. I just don't believe I could beat Father Time. I don't have the desire and discipline to do this stuff anymore. I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to embarrass this sport. This is a great sport. This sport that took men with pretty humble lives and humble beginnings and put them in a position to rub shoulders with royalty. I'm not going to embarrass the sport any more than it is. Kevin is a wonderful young man. He's doing well. I wish him a wonderful career. And this is just my ending, you know.
We'll see. On to the racing ring and today's Formula One Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. After some mechanical problems, driver Kimi Räikkönen eked out his 3rd major Formula One win of the season, taking Michael Schumacher's Canadian title. Now, while everyone usually roots for the fast cars in the front of the pack, in Montreal it was today's 9th place finisher who got the loudest cheers. Jacques Villeneuve, the Quebec native and local hero whose iconic status reaches far beyond racing circles, never really loses in these parts. Here's Global National's Mike Armstrong.
Montreal's a little different from other F1 race cities. Sure, there are more Ferrari fans than any other team, just like anywhere else in the world. But here, no matter what colors the fans are wearing, most are also Jacques Villeneuve fans.
He's one of us. That's it, man. That's what it comes down to. Est-ce que l'harmonie est de retour entre Peter Sauber et Jacques Villeneuve?
Villeneuve was probably happy to finally get down to racing today. There's no shortage of distractions when he comes home. He's the driver everyone wants to speak to. He holds a packed news conference each year at his own restaurant. Now, this year, things have been a little tough. He's basically been an also-ran this season. Aside from one good finish, it's been one disaster after another. But this is Quebec, and even on race day, the 13th ranked driver is page 1 news. A lot of Villeneuve's popularity doesn't have a lot to do with him, but his father. Gilles Villeneuve was a Quebec icon even before he died in this crash in 1982. Jacques was only 11 at the time. Gilles Villeneuve is still a legend today. This museum attracts 25,000 fans a year.
When you enter to this museum, you feel a great spirit of Gilles Villeneuve.
Jacques Villeneuve is built on his father's legend. He's won at every level, including F1 World Champ in 1997. The one place he's always had trouble, though, is here at home. He finished second in Montreal once, but most of the time he's had trouble just finishing. Even so, there was still hope today.
It's the beauty of racing. You never know what's going to happen, right?
Villeneuve started 8th on the grid today, but bumped another car on the first turn. He dropped to last place right away.
Well, meanwhile, Jacques Villeneuve has finally made himself up a place. He's up to 19th, but what a sad story.
Well, things did improve a little, in large part because other races kept retiring one after another.
Meanwhile, everybody moves up one.
By the end of the race, Villeneuve finished an improbable and respectable 9th.
He and the car look like they won.
There's a lot of speculation that Villeneuve's bosses aren't too happy with his performance this season, and he may be out of a job. Well, even if Villeneuve doesn't have a ride next season, at least here in Quebec, he'll still have his fans. In Montreal, I'm Global's Mike Armstrong reporting.
And that is Global National for this Sunday. I'm Suzette Meyers. Thanks for sharing your time with us.